promised nuclear future. Let's break that down for our viewers. Now, while the world debates the future of green energy, India is quietly moving towards a breakthrough that could fundamentally change our strategic and economic standing. The reactor is an indigenously built 500 megawatt electric sodium cooled fast breeder reactor. Fuel loading began in October 2025 after all necessary approvals, and the project has been in development for decades, but with construction starting back in 2004. Commercial operations are now targeted by September 2026. The reactor uses mixed oxide fuel made from spent nuclear material. It is specially designed to produce more fissile material than it consumes. And this success takes India firmly into the second stage of its three-stage nuclear power program and gives a strong boost to self-reliance in advanced nuclear technology. India has now joined an exclusive club. Needless to say, only Russia and India have meaningful operational scale capability in fast breeder reactors. Many other countries, they've tried but could not scale up their programs because of high costs, because of safety concerns and the technical difficulties. This technology works as a fuel multiplier. It's important in today's geopolitical scenario. It converts uranium-238 into plutonium-239, which greatly extends the life of our nuclear fuel. It also brings the advantage of waste reduction by cutting down long-lived nuclear waste and lowering its toxicity. Overall, it strengthens India's energy security by enabling better fuel recycling and reducing the need for imports. And most importantly, it prepares the ground for the next stage by unlocking the potential of thorium. India holds one of the largest thorium reserves in the world, estimated at around 850,000 tons or more. Much of this wealth particularly lies in the beach sands along our coast, mixed with valuable rare earth elements. And these coastal deposits form a rare earth gold mine that has remained largely untapped so far. That's going to change very, very soon. In the third stage of our nuclear program, thorium will fuel advanced reactors by producing uranium-233. And this becomes possible because of the strong ecosystem built by the fast breeder reactors. This is not only about energy, it's also about strategic economic play. By mastering thorium technology, India can reduce its dependence on other countries, especially China, for critical materials. It can boost exports of nuclear technology and support clean energy independence for the long term. In short, the success at Kalpakkam brings us closer to turning India's natural resources into a real superpower in sustainable nuclear energy. Esteemed panelists with us on the broadcast, and the big questions that we are asking. How soon can India move from fast breeder reactors to full thorium-based stage 3 reactors, and what challenges remain? Will thorium fuel help India achieve real energy independence and cut down on imports from other countries, and much more? Bharat Karnad, Emeritus Professor, National Security Studies, Center for Policy Research, with us on the broadcast, and Dr. W. Selvamurthy, President, Amity Science Foundation and former DG, DRDO. Dr. Selvamurthy and Professor, many thanks for taking out the time. Professor Karnad, first and foremost, criticality has been achieved, but for a lay viewer out there, sir, what actually changes for India at this moment in real operational terms? India's three-stage program, it's been discussed for decades. Help break that down for the lay viewer out there as well. Where exactly does this new reactor place us in the roadmap in today?
Well, when Dr. Bhabha initiated the plan in 1955, the three-stage plan, the first stage was supposed to be the natural uranium-fueled heavy water moderated reactor. And now the plan was nicely interlocked, meaning the product that came out of the first stage would be the feedstock for the second stage, which was the fast breeder reactor, and that in turn would produce the feedstock for the third thorium reactor stage. It was beautifully done. And when you say thorium, India is one of the largest, one of the largest reserves. The fact is, India has the largest reserves in the world. The next country that has reserves is Russia, and that's the reason why, as you initially said, It's just India and Russia that are interested in the thorium cycle, because we have the thorium reserves. No one else has it, though others might be interested technology-wise and so on. The pity is that India has wasted so much time and so much of its wealth on not pursuing the Bhabha plan, but instead getting stuck in buying reactors from abroad and so on, as we have committed to do with the Civilian Nuclear Cooperation deal with the United States.
Yeah.
This is a devastating thing for the indigenous plan and for the Bhabha plan in particular, because what's the problem? The problem is money. It's not the skills and the manpower. If you have only so much money to invest, where would you rather invest it? Would you not invest it in the Bhabha plan that is based on indigenous reserves rather than buying light water reactors from America and France and Russia, which is what we have done. So we have wasted our monies, and we are nowhere near self-sufficiency that Dr. Bhabha envisaged for us.
Professor, how far are we really from grid scale, stable electricity generation? What are some of the next, technological and technical milestones before we talk about full-scale commercialization? Do throw some light on that as well. You spoke about thorium advantage when it comes to India and Russia.
Yes, absolutely. Look, again, because insufficient monies have been invested, there's not the pace that we ought to have had in the program. So we are lagging behind in terms of time and cost, because what you don't have, then you try to put in some money somewhere and you stretch that out over the years and so on. So this is what has happened. We had the fast breeder test reactor in 1985. We started building it. It has taken us 40 years to get to finesse our technologies, the fast breeder technologies, to get to a point where we are now going to be commercially operating it by end September of this year. So we have taken 40 years. When that timeline could have collapsed, we would have helped it collapse, the government, by making the right decisions, which we haven't. Now, the fast breeder reactor is a great advance on what we had in terms of the can-do reactor. For instance, just a thing that I might add, how we could have financed our own program. When we bought the NXR reactor from Canada and then developed it as a can-do reactor, it could have been the workhorse. It is still the workhorse of our nuclear energy program, right? How could we have used it to finance our rest of the program? By exporting it. We could have exported our 220 megawatt reactors to a whole bunch of countries, developed a whole chain of dependencies that would have relied on us for our reactor technology to work it, and so on and so forth. See, that would have generated enormous amounts of revenue for the program, which we haven't done.
Yep.
So this is the real thing, that we lack foresight. Our government seems to lack foresight. Our nuclear energy program, after Dr. Bhabha, unfortunately, we haven't had the visionaries and great strategic visionaries of the kind that Bhabha was. But he was unique. He was sui generis.
Yep.
Those who have followed our virtual pygmies, really. I can't imagine anybody matching up to Dr. Bhabha, and that has been our, shall we say, our great deficit.
All right. All right.
And so, again, just to talk about technology.
Yeah.
Breeder helps you get into the thorium cycle. We are one of the 3 countries really that has mastered all the 3 fuel cycles: uranium, plutonium, and thorium. Now, thorium, we started our experimental reactor, Kamini, with a pure thorium reactor with a sodium coolant, which is again in Kalpakam. So that's an experimental reactor. We need to scale it up. That will happen after we get going with our fast breeder, right? Which we have delayed for all the reasons that I mentioned. And so we are again lagging behind, as we invariably do. in strategic technologies and in becoming...
Those are all credible points, Professor. But, I'm here thinking as a lay viewer myself when it comes to, nuclear science, that, better late than never. And hey, we've arrived, we've come, of course, delay is a tragedy here. And maybe, the great scientist Bhabha is turning in his grave, but we have come here. And we have come here in decent time. Let's talk about what we can do from here on. And you've, very rightly pointed about the thorium advantage. And this is going to create a strategic supply chain advantage as well because of our own reserves. But Dr. Selvamoorthy, let me bring you in here. Fast breeder reactors, they come with their own complexity and the risks as well. We're talking about the sodium coolant, the reprocessing, the costs that, Professor already spoke about. From a national strategic lens, where do we stand? How should India now balance this new ambition that we have, of course, with caution, and the foresight that has been lacking, like Professor Karnad pointed out?
Thank you very much for having me in this show. And let me first of all congratulate the scientists of Department of Atomic Energy for this wonderful, path-breaking, disruptive, very important milestone in terms of augmenting the nuclear energy in our country. And so my compliments. And our country now has set a vision. Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has set a vision that India should become a Viksit Bharat by 2047, for which energy plays a primordial role. And we have also looked at two things, inclusive growth and sustainable development. So when you look at energy, we need sustainable energy. So in this sustainable energy, India is looking at all options because we have declared by 2070, India will become a carbon neutral. So if we have to achieve this, we are looking at the solar power, we are looking at other renewables, green hydrogen, electric power, and also the nuclear power. So currently the nuclear power contribution in terms of our power requirement, which is 420 gigawatts, is the installed electricity capacity today, of which only 2 to 3% comes from the nuclear power, which is very, very, very less. When you look at France, it is almost 60 to 70% of their power requirement comes from the nuclear power. Similarly, when you look at the US, 80 to 20%. And then Russia, almost 20% of their energy requirement, electricity requirement comes through the nuclear power. So this is where we are 2 to 3%. We should augment this, and for which this is a very important achievement in terms of technology demonstration today. The second stage of this three-stage India's nuclear program, nuclear energy program, that which we have. This is a very important milestone, and the criticality.
Have we completely unlocked stage 2, Dr. Selvamoorthy, or are we still in that transitioning phase? Is it safe to say we've completely unlocked stage 2?
Yes, it has reached criticality. Means we have already reached that the mature stage of the second stage. But then now we have to prepare, as was discussed, that thorium based, which is the stage 3. This is the step which will lead to thorium based, because we have almost 1 million ton reserves of thorium in the beaches in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and the other beaches. So we have a high reserves. 25% of the world reserves of thorium is in India. As was rightly mentioned, the largest thorium, the reserves are available. So that is why this is critical, and this is very significant, because this will lead to, this is a fuel multiplier reactor. That is, when you are having the uranium as a fuel, and then which we don't have much reserves. So then this uranium gets converted into plutonium, and then plutonium also can lead to thorium-based the fuel consumption. So and then you are regenerating the nuclear, the fuel. So you are not depleting the fuel, you are using the fuel and generating more fuel. So that is, in simple term, the achievement of this particular procedure. And when you look at also, we have almost 23 operational reactors in the country today, and they're all mostly pressurized heavy water reactors. But now we are going to have a game changer in this particular thing, coming into the three-stage nuclear program, achieving criticality, Kudankulam nuclear power plant, and many others. But here the uranium and the moderate is heavy reactor. Heavy water is our the moderator in this particular technology, which is being used currently. But now the whole thing will change. As you rightly said, the sodium coolant is one concern because this is highly the explosive material in terms of if you use this coolant, the safety concerns are there, which is being addressed because for every problem there is a technological solution. So India will develop that technological
Let's not damp the situation, Dr. Silvamurthy. You know, I think it's a red letter day when it comes to our nuclear prowess. Just a couple of days back, we were talking about US versus China when it was the Artemis and, you know, the lunar race that we were talking about, what role India could play. From a strategic standpoint, this is real significant, the milestone that we've reached in reducing India's energy vulnerability and, of course, the external dependence. Before I wrap this segment up, Professor Karnad, would you like to throw some light on the scientific hurdles before we finally get to stage 3, before the thorium reactors actually become viable?
Yeah, look, as the co-panelist mentioned, the thorium, trying to get the thorium fuel into the reactor, you have to sort of, it has to be dissolved into, very combustive kind of material like the coolant that you have, the sodium coolant. You see, it is so combustible that even the slightest interface with water or air and so on, you have explosions, fires and so on. To the extent that we have reached in terms of the FBTR, some of these technologies we have managed to finesse. That means that next step would be to get into thorium tech in per se.
Okay.
And it'll require an awful lot of very sensitive handling, fabrication, processing and so on of the thorium fuel. And so this will really be very demanding technologically for the program. And we have had other challenges that we have overcome.
Yep.
So it's not not difficult or anything of the kind. It just, as I said again, it needs investment of monies. Everything depends on where you invest your monies.
Yeah.
If we invest as we have done all this while, we have gone, you go on, a different kind of path. If we are very single-minded in following the thorium route as Dr. Bhabha envisaged, then we'll very soon, by very soon I mean it'll take another 20 years, I think.
That's still soon. That's still soon, Professor.
Thorium reactor, but this is where we're going, and not a bad thing to happen.
Okay. Now, let's leave it at that. Not a bad thing to happen. Let's hope for good sense to prevail when it comes to, expenditure of money, but it is red letter day. Next step, I think, is finessing and mastering the thorium tech that you've been talking about. Dr. Silvamurthy, always a pleasure to have you with us. Professor Karnad, once again, many thanks for taking up the time. See, from criticality to now capability, India's nuclear story has crossed a decisive threshold. The real test is now turning scientific success into sustained national power, and I think we're not very far away from that. With that, it's a wrap on In Your Interest. We're going to see you again tomorrow. Many thanks for watching.
What you saw me on the field and off the field is like chalk and cheese.
No guts, no glory, no pain, no gain.
My tendency is to go for magic, not for perfection.
I never give up. I like to win.
Just me being here, it's a statement.
When chips are down, the whole team could have looked up to you, said, Dada is still there.
Every time, whether I scored 100 or a Sachin scored 100 or a Rahul scored 100, the scoreboard said India won.
Let the kids know and the families know that one of the best ways to get a good education, go to a good school and a good college anywhere in the world is if you play a sport well.
There is a quality about me which is why perhaps people feel I'm a perfectionist, because I don't get tired easily.
In Germany, the biggest newspaper was written on the first page, this is a finishing from Lothar Matthäus' career, and this was motivating me.
I was literally on my phone at home and they're like, oh, we have the results. We suggest that you remove your breast. And I'm like, wait, what?
In Tamil Nadu, the battle over language returns.
ஒரே மொழி பேசுகிறோம், ஒரே எதிர்காலத்தை நோக்கி நடக்கிறோம்.
Election about identity, loyalty.
Bye bye Stalin.
Dravida model versus double engine की सरकार.
बीजेपी एनडीए की डबल इंजन सरकार बनना तय है.
The stakes are high.
From the ground, the questions that matter, the voices that shape the vote. India votes only on News 9.